6, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by to visit Glen Rock, need crypto, told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. Who you with?
Well, we're joined by a special guest today, our first ever guest from many moons ago, but hasn't been on the show in quite some time. I could have sworn we talked like a year ago or so, but it's been like almost 2 years. And of course,
really?
It's Alex. I guess, unless I'm wrong or something, but I feel like it has been a while, but I felt like it was sooner than that, or at least. But it's been a while.
I guess
there's a lot of black pilled 2021, 2022 episodes that are like, I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, yeah, that was a tough time. I think we're congregating here on better circumstances, I should say. And I just got to ask you, Alex, we've had like I said, 2021, we're worried about if we're going to get like mRNA force fed to us and stuff, and worried about all sorts of stuff, worried if we'll ever be able to speak freely on the internet and stuff. And I don't want to say those worries are never to come back again, but as somebody who's been doing this for a long time, talking since your school closure coverage days, how are you feeling right now about how, the political landscape is?
I feel really optimistic.
Nice.
What about you guys?
I mean, yeah. And it's like, there's always people trying to tell me to like relax about it. And I'm like, guys, I don't think you realize how bad things really got. And I don't really look to elected officials as like my savior. And I think that's what people think I'm doing. But I mean, let's just put it to you this way. Executive orders being put out that, COVID vaccines mandates would, if you want to mandate the COVID vaccine at your school, like good luck getting federal funding and, just really smart, shrewd moves that I didn't think we'd really see in our lifetime, especially with like that just hyper dystopia that we were living in 2020, 2021 and parts of 2022,
Yeah.
So, but like you're covering a lot of this right now, like you're covering a lot of the USAID stuff. And like I said, I think it's just nice to I think the adults are in the room. Remember what they used to say that about like Biden? I just feel like we have adults now.
Well, it's also like incredible poetic justice has been enacted with some of the appointments like RFK and Jay Bhattacharya, just for the COVID stuff. To see people who were censored now going to lead agencies is very, I don't know. I never thought that something like that would happen. I mean, I don't think if you told me that in 2021 or 2022, I would believe it.
No.
And it did seem back then like, I'm sure every episode we did was like doom imminent.
It was. It was so sad. But I mean, hey, here we are.
I don't like how like people go ahead.
No, go ahead.
People, people ascribe us a lot of these things, like you said, like you guys think you're being saved or whatever, but they don't realize our whole podcast came about from all this dumb 2020 2021 mandate shit. And it's like, what are we supposed to be? Are we supposed to black pill now about that and be like, no, actually it sucks, and I laugh because it's like Reed College in Portland, we're like half hour from there now. I used to live right by it. There's one Twitter account that tracks all the colleges, and they're one of the 15 colleges left in America that still requires the COVID vaccine. And it's the one that Steve Jobs dropped out of to found Apple. He dropped out of Reed, but it's the dumbest. It's like, it's a beautiful campus and everything and all that, but it's just classic, COVID.
Yeah,
COVID school.
You never know how things are going to turn out in the end. I mean, it could all go very downhill very fast. That's always a possibility. I mean, that's a possibility in anything. Like you can die tomorrow, die right now. I mean, anything can happen. You can't really predict the future. And it is good for people to be vigilant and like be critical and stuff, but also you shouldn't miss the incredible historic defeat of the Democrats, the whole professional educated class that they represent, and their monopoly on truth and their monopoly on the media. You shouldn't, people shouldn't dismiss that as like a non-event. I mean, it's definitely a historic event.
Yeah. I think it's I will have one eye open, kind of looking around the corner. I do feel like I can check out like a little bit, like just slightly, and just not like be wondering if like next month. So I just remember the OSHA mandate days when I thought maybe there'd be an OSHA mandate, and that was probably the lowest of the low for me in terms of how I felt during all this. But I think a lot of people don't like that it wasn't their side that did it. I think there were even people that did get sick of COVID. Like I don't believe that every single person on the left or Democrat or something is still, quadruple masking or something. There's a lot of people that are over it. They're still mad that the other side did it. And
but they're secretly relieved too. That's the thing.
Oh,
they're
sure.
they're secretly like, thank God they didn't have this. I don't want to wear a mask anymore.
Right. I mean, or just be in that world. I mean, it's just, it was kind of uplifting to see that maybe not everybody wanted to live like this for the rest of their lives. So, but again, if it's the bad guys doing it, they can't openly celebrate it, and they're probably just much more skeptical because of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy, who those three guys, really Kennedy and Trump, but those three guys up until the election were just completely, you're not allowed to support this person. We're trying to ban RFK's book. It's on the number one misinformation list. Trump is insurrectionist. He's a traitor to the country. And then Elon is Elon. Who I still kind of am a little skeptical on, but I can't say if I'm grading it like a teacher or something, I can't sit here and say I disagree with a lot of this stuff.
I mean, and even if you do, it's healthy to disagree with a lot of the stuff, and a lot of stuff isn't good. There's things we can point to right now that are not good, like the campus anti-Semitism investigation stuff. I mean, that's not good. They shouldn't be doing that. Obviously, no administration is perfect, and it would be very dumb to be like, everything this administration does is amazing. Everything that all of these characters do is amazing. Everything they say is completely true, and we should live by it. But that's certainly not what I'm saying. I just think it's more about, it's not about, to me, any kind of affection for who's in power now necessarily, but more just about the joy I feel at the defeat of the people who did the COVID stuff and all kinds of other nefarious activities, who are just completely without a message now. And there was an article in the New York Times that was like, Democrats are scrambling because they have nothing to say. Basically, they have no coordinated messaging. And it's just a beautiful thing to see, to me personally.
Even the framing of that, even the idea that we have to get our messaging on track rather than just be fucking normal and give people what they want. It's just all this very like Zoom meeting-esque kind of, we just got to get all on the same page and check all the boxes. And it's
like changing
that
the logo,
was rejected.
Like changing the logo of a failing company. You're like, okay, that was the problem.
Exactly.
It's not the fact that you guys like are drastically unpopular. I mean, you started to see those like, I forget what you started to see like 80% of people talking about like the women's sports stuff, like just like 80%, just on a CNN poll, like just people who don't, like your message is rotten, you know what I mean? And that's, for a while I thought, like, I almost thought free will didn't exist for a long time in like 2021, where I was like, oh wow, we really can be just like software updated, and for at least the vast majority of people who benefit from this in any particular way. Oh gosh, I can't get enough of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Greek tragedy for them because it's all from their hubris. And also their entire claim to their rule and legitimacy was that we're the smartest. We're going to manage society with the most advanced knowledge and techniques. And we're going to bring people good things that way, and avoid problems and fix problems and bring equality, all these good things. And then they just created disaster, like catastrophe, whether it was the gender affirming care or the COVID stuff. They just totally delegitimized themselves. And the myth of their special knowledge and their special access to truth and their special expertise has collapsed. And that's what's really exciting, because it feels like they're really getting their just desserts in that way.
We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode.
I'm sorry to sound like mean. I just
No,
I don't know. Maybe
what do you
that's
mean?
me.
You don't even sound me. You usually hear the sound bites I had. I was like, what if we had Pol Pot come in and like, I was saying some crazy stuff like back then. Stuff that I don't regret my emotion during it, but I was like, oh, actually, I honestly just literally getting like RFK and then the USAID stuff, which you're doing some coverage of that right now. I mean, just there's so many people that I find it interesting. I've always been kind of like, if you see something failing, don't fund it, and even no matter what part of the spectrum politically I was on, I was kind of like, yeah, but why would you overinflate something? Why, it doesn't make any sense. It just seems like bad business. But, being a former educator yourself, they're coming for the Department of Education. That's what we're hearing all the time. I mean, in California, people are like, they're coming for the Department of Education. We need to, winter is coming, like Game of Thrones style. But, what is, as a former teacher, and I know you're very critical of the teachers union and all of that, but what do you have any like qualms about maybe federal Department of Education maybe not being the titan that it once was?
Not really.
There you go.
Well, okay. I mean, when I first heard about it, I thought, wow, this isn't good. This is going to be the one that I really disagree with. And it's all about the privatization and the charter school stuff, which is, it's fine if people want to support that, but it's not going to solve the overall problem of American education. So I just felt like this is special interest stuff and it's not good. But then when I researched it more, I kind of got swayed to the idea that the Department of Education probably should be dismantled. And the reason doesn't have anything to do with like, I want more privatization. I don't really want that. The reason is just that all of its functions can be done by other department. Like you can move the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act enforcement to HHS. You can move the student aid to the Treasury. You can move the education statistics to the Census Bureau. It doesn't need its own department. And the department seems to just be another kind of professional managerial class, like grift machine. It's all seems to exist basically to create more growth in administration. And I don't know if you guys have seen graphs about the growth of administrators in education going around, but it's like huge numbers, like 87% increase since 2000. Versus, minor increases in number of teachers and number of kids. I don't know if I have that number right, but the growth in administration just doesn't match the growth in the schools. So, and some of that administration has to exist in order to have people who are going to like comply with the things that come down from the Department of Education. And the things the Department of Education has pushed are all just the normal nonsense, like equity, inclusion. They pushed under the Obama administration, ending the school to prison pipeline, where they changed the disciplinary systems, pushing restorative justice, things like that, which is a really nice idea. And I certainly don't like overly punitive school systems, but now the number one reason teachers leave is because of student behavior and the problems with enforcing rules through suspensions and things like that. And it's a lot of just weaponization of political dogma, civil rights enforcement. They did this stuff with the Department of Agriculture, where they wanted to change Title IX to include gender identity so that schools would have to allow boys to go into girls' sports. And then they worked with the Department of Agriculture to make sure that to try to withhold funding for like federal school meals. It's if the schools didn't do that, so it just it's kind of rotten all the way down. They say they don't, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the phonics controversy and so anyways, there's this huge reading controversy where they basically, schools across the country over the last couple decades, I guess, maybe more, but definitely over the last couple decades, were teaching reading the wrong way is the most basic way to put it. And they've also done the same thing with math. I don't know if you guys know all the complaints people have about the Common Core math.
100%.
But so Department of Education says they don't do curriculum, but actually, because of the way that they controlled like the testing and the standards enforcement, they do have a hand in making sure that certain curriculum is emphasized or that schools have to do things in a certain way. So I do think, they're probably, they should be held. I mean, this department, this bureaucracy should be held accountable for the crazy failure that is American public education. And I don't really see how it can get worse, because the scores are so bad. It's so bad. And COVID is part of it. The screen time is part of it. But one of the reasons why COVID was so bad was because the education system was just hanging on by a thread to begin with.
Right.
And I haven't really seen, I am open to an argument if someone has a really good argument about why the Department of Ed needs to remain like fully functional. They actually can't close it because it would require an act of Congress, and they're not going to get the supermajority to do that. But they want to just move stuff around, so effectively dismantle it, but not abolish it. And I haven't really seen a good argument. All I hear is Bernie Sanders being like, "You're taking money away from kids," or Randy Weingarten, "You're taking money out of kids' mouths." It's like, come on, you guys, this is not like, be serious.
It's a prime time like opportunity for someone like Bernie Sanders, and I'm not hoping this happens because I'm done with him. But like, if I was Bernie Sanders, and he's a little bit older, but Trump's old, Biden was old. It's not like age is a factor here. It's a prime time example for him to like really extend the olive branch and kind of do a true populist movement, like taking some of the stuff from RFK, taking some of the stuff from Trump, and like packaging it to the left. He will do none of that. He does none of it. He doubles and triples down the RFK hearings, the Department of Education, all these things. There's a lot of people that do the meme like, "Hey, it always has been," with him. And there's probably reasons to believe that they're correct when they do that. But man, it's like to just not see this as an opportunity and instead to just double and triple down on like 2015, 2016 Trump derangement syndrome and protect our institutions that aren't working, protect them. It is really, it's not depressing because I'm happy with what's happening, but it's like, wow, I really can't believe he wouldn't be shrewd enough to just see that that's a good opportunity.
That's his legacy.
Exactly.
And it's funny talking to people, especially younger people that supported him, that maybe didn't detach as much as we all did from that. And they don't really pretend. They have to kind of pretend that they don't support him per se, but they still kind of believe the general thrust of all his stuff. The education stuff's crazy because I'm close to a few teachers that had retired or left, and they all have like TDS too. But so it's kind of, they know how bad it is, and they admit that just the behavior's out of control, that Common Core sucks, all these things suck. All they do is complain about administrators, but then someone finally tries to do something about it. Again, it's the wrong team doing it. So then immediately that's like, oh, that's a bad thing, or that's a red flag for them. And it's, I don't know, it's just insane. I'm hoping that, that we just start to see some of the results of this come around. And also, I have this weird kind of theory. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, if you'll allow me to ramble, guys.
Sure.
I have okay, you look at when it seems like when liberals talk about all this stuff, all like therapy for autism, for kids, school, everything, it just requires so much bloat to, at every step, just micromanage a kid and have, like, literally in therapy from like 3 years old in some cases, right? All the way through, ideally, their entire lives, according to them, right? But all the way through school for sure. And then you see that they support every vax mandate and not questioning SSRI, freaking out that RFK might question SSRIs. It's just a neat little bundle of stuff. It's like almost like a theory of mind for them, that is just, they want this stuff run from the top down way, with no creativity, no homeschooling, no hippie moms, no any of that. It's just very interesting how it's just so tightly bound up. You can't unravel that, really. I don't know. Does that make any sense? I've just been thinking about that more lately, because I see it, and it's just these kids they're like autistic, and they're getting put in these programs, and then they just have it's just crazy to me. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, you have the no, I think it's like you get like a pathway, right? Like on a computer or something, like pathways and shortcuts. And it's like, okay, we need this. Yeah. And that's going to require this. Yeah. And then you're nodding. And then you're like, yeah. And then we just need to like get rid of this horseshit program. What?
Yeah.
And then just error, like weird Brian Eno clicking noise happens. And you're like, what is happening? No. We cannot do that. And you're like, well, all right. But it's just the idea that it's like, what do you think is going to happen to you if you decide that this is the right way to go? Like, what do you think is going to happen to you? I don't think the stigma is not quite there anymore for people that like support something that Trump does. Like it's way less stigmatized than it was in 2015, 2016, and even 2020. So it's just like, hey guys, none of this is working. None of it is working. And the idea that, if your side had the chance, right? They did have the chance to go in there. And I'm saying this to Democrats, like they had they had a golden opportunity to be like, wow, this nation's wrecked. Here we could do all of this stuff. Now, I probably don't support a lot of it, but they had the chance to do it, and they were just like, no, actually, you're evil if you think anything's wrong. Is what they said for years. You're going to die in the winter because you didn't take the vaccine. You're racist if you think groceries are too expensive. And if you want any change to happen in the world, any progress, you need to basically stuff to the gills all of these fake programs, essentially. And then you might be happy. And if you're not happy, we have SSRI.
Yeah. That's the other thing. They think that they just assume, they have this hyperbolic rhetoric that SSRIs are going to be banned, or that the measles vaccine is going to be banned,
Well,
and they're just scared of any sunlight getting in, like any actual research that, they're just blue pill. They just don't want it, any truth on these matters. They want the religious aspect of it to reign supreme forever. And I don't know. It's a scary, I just don't trust them. The older millennial women, I must say, the moms are the worst for this, and that's a uniquely. I'm not trying to. I swear to God,
I know the one you're specifically talking about too. So that's pretty funny.
It's just, I don't know. But it generalizes though, right? I mean, there are some awesome ones. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
Sure, yeah.
But it's just like, man, it's just scary how they've just punted away this critical thinking completely. It's worrisome. I don't know.
And then are worried about the critical thinking going away, by the way.
I know.
They're worried, that we will run out of the critical thinking, but again, it's a very simple process. And I think what's happening right now, and I forget who we were talking to. It might have been Jared, when we were talking to Jared, where he was just like, they're kind of just doing stuff that like your uncle or dad would do, and like to help you, like as a kid, whether you're just like struggling with something, and they're like, actually, if you just give me that real fast, boom, 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 do that, and then like just a few things go away, and you're like, oh yeah, that's way better, But nobody wants that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's I think that the resistance, some of it is like because they have an insecurity that their whole worldview is just built on lies, and if you pull one thing out, the whole thing kind of falls apart. And if your entire self-image and identity is just, again, that you're like the smartest person and you're the best person and everything you do is great and everything that your family does and your friends do is so much superior to the dumb flyover people.
Yeah.
And if you don't really have another sense of meaning, I think that can seem quite threatening. And I think that there's this like recognition that, oh, I don't really know about what I don't really know about how the government works. I don't really know about vaccines. And there's this like suspicion that maybe there's something there. And so you have to guard against it. And the way that they end up guarding against it ends up being really intense. I mean, that's how the dirtbag left is like too, right?
Yeah. Careful saying that one. They're scary, man. They're out on the hunt right now. Size of Marks, man. He's got he's like in a Western. They got posters of him in the town, man. Like this scary manatee Avi on Twitter is it's like questioning stuff.
It's concentrated all the more normal dirtbag people, like the ones that weren't fully bought in, they evaporated. They're like, oh, this is a little too much for me.
Yeah.
And so the psychosis is just concentrated, you know.
Yeah,
but,
like Blue Sky.
Like Blue Sky. Yeah.
But and also just the whole the Democratic Party as well, because a lot of people defected from the party, or defected from the left that's adjacent to the party, that the party can pull good ideas from. A lot of people just don't want anything to have to do with it anymore. Like people like me or us. I mean, at least how I started out was like, I feel like I didn't consciously register this, but probably a lot of what I was doing was like trying to get the left to be better.
Yes.
And trying to help them and trying to, be like, no, we should do this because then that will be better because then we'll win. Because if we do the school closures, then everyone will hate us and that will be bad. But now at some point it like flipped for me and I felt like I never want to help them again. And like, I hope people see how bad all their decisions were. And I hope I can just highlight that to people. But those individuals, I'm not saying this about myself, but certain individuals who were more savvy, got out sooner and took their skills and resources elsewhere, like to alternative media or to the Republican Party.
Right.
And now the Democrats are lacking, I think, creative ideas, skilled strategists, also people who have more integrity and moral fiber. So they're kind of just have like the empty suits and the careerists, and it's kind of much more difficult for them, I think, to dig themselves out of this hole because they lack the human capacity.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I just, for the longest time, there was kind of this, like, they do it publicly on all social media platforms, but they pretend it's like a huddle with the team. Like they'll just be like, guys, we lost. It sucks. This is terrible. We're still investigating whether Russia did it or not, or if Elon did it through Starlink. But let's say we did lose. We needed like our own Joe Rogan. We need to fight fire with fire. I'm like, I'm always like, you guys had Joe Rogan. Like you straight up could have had Joe Rogan. Like himself. Like you could have had him. He's not ever. He doesn't, like, people always say like he has like a MAGA hat on. It's like, no, he's looking for any opportunity to become a Democrat again at all times. If you hear him talk, that's not a diss to him or anything. It's just like you can tell he's kind of like what you said. He's like, he kind of wishes that side was better. Still, he's still in that front. But they're like, oh well, we can't do that because what's done is done. And it's like, they might not want to win.
They pushed him away. They pushed it, and I like I've been seeing a lot like the right wing echo chamber online, like Theo Von. I'm like, Theo Von had Bernie Sanders on like a month ago. It was not even 4 years ago, like a month ago.
I mean, Theo Von was like crying about like Gaza a month
Yeah.
ago. Like if the
Yeah.
opponent's not
Yeah.
like the arch conservative,
It's crazy. Yeah.
No,
doesn't make
but he'll
sense.
take a picture with Trump doing a thumbs up at a UFC fight, and they're like, "We lost him," and it's like you guys don't just get that like Trump's cool, you know what I mean? Like you guys just don't, and that's the problem is they got out cooled. They never
Yeah.
thought, and I didn't think in my
Yeah.
lifetime I'd ever see it, to be quite honest, that you got out cooled by the right. And you know, even in like 2016, and there's people that might disagree, people that have supported Trump from the beginning, like the 2016 like Trump thing. Now, was Hillary cooler? No, but like Trump's campaign was not really like that, like cool. But then in like 2020, it was good. And then in 2024, he was like literally probably listening to Barron Trump about like what young people like and stuff. And he really like did the big tent thing and like, and just was like, wow, that if I don't get RFK in here, I know there's a lot of people that, you know, might withhold their vote. You know, and some people might say, screw that. You don't need those crazy crunchy hippies. They're going to be Democrats anyways. Guess what? They're not. Nope. You know, there's no room, there's no home for them on the left anymore. There's people that still think there is, but there's not. I assure you guys right now, if you are this anti-vax hippie person that's like, well, I'm still a leftist at heart, you're not. You're not. They absolutely
want to kill you.
Yeah, they want to kill
you.
They want to kill you and actively think you are murdering people around you. They think you are the son of Sam.
They think you deserve to die. They think you would be. They would. Be justified in killing you. So they don't want, it's not just like they don't want you in their club, like they think you're an enemy in the worst possible way.
Yeah, if you go on Blue Sky, like I don't, but I see like the screen caps of stuff, they literally are just like, I'm gonna kill my whole Republican side of my family. I'm gonna kill them with my bare hands. And you're like, damn, dude. And it's just, and it's like, and then it'll be like, you know, Chuck Wendig or so. It'll be like a famous person saying that, not even just like some guy, you know, like it's crazy. And I just, to me, it's like, look, I am not politically homeless because the only people that ever listened to me in the last 4 years or something are people at least middle right and right. Like the people on the left have decided I'm a psyop now. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. I tell you right now. Oh yeah, we get Teal Bucks accusations. Like, I mean, the thing is, the Bucks aren't there, so it's like, what do you like? I mean, they're trying to get me to like screenshot my checking account or something, but like they and I'm not gonna fall into that.
Even when Palantir's mooning, we're still we're left on the launch pad, dude.
It's just this idea, and it's an ultimate form of narcissism, right? It's a quote, you know, how Anna Khachiyan talks about this, but like the final form of narcissism to me is that anybody that disagrees with you is being paid to do so. And it's like, no, you're wrong. You were wrong, right? And it's fine to be wrong, but like to double, triple down and to get like conspiratorial about it, about how some people can just decide that like, maybe 3 shots of like an MMR vaccine is not good. You know, like Andrew Wakefield style stuff. Like that's not a psyop. That's just people listening to like people with injured children and stuff and seeing the pathway. Like there's just never going to be that like leftist communist guy that comes in and just does like what's happening right now. And I don't even want that to happen. So it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of people that just can't get there, I guess. It's just, there's one last thing. Maybe they're just more invested than I ever was or something, but it's
in the left.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like maybe people that were just really rooted in it or like organizers or something, but I feel like you should be even more mad if that was the case. I don't know.
I mean, some of it's like, it depends on the person. I mean, some people still have social costs that they don't want to deal with, you know, if it's like your spouse or you don't really want to confront your family or you don't want to lose your friends. I mean, that makes sense. But it's like,
I don't know.
It's 2025.
And I mean, I don't know. Friends. I don't know. His friends are weird, man.
And then,
I don't know.
But I mean, and the other side of it is that I still think it goes back to self-image and these very ingrained ideas that people have about the right as evil, going back to the Bush years and stuff like that. And people don't like being wrong or thinking that they were wrong. It feels like a lot of uncertainty and instability. I mean, I feel that way all the time. Like, oh, how do I know I can really trust myself because I was wrong about so much stuff? But that's just kind of part of like growing up.
Yeah.
You know?
It's embarrassing sometimes too, like to be wrong nowadays personally, like when there's like screenshots of you being wrong, like, in, like you know, I mean, not you, me, like it could be anybody, like anybody can find something where if you just were like convinced about something and it was wrong, like it could happen. And I
Mhm.
like, I've seen people do this, and these are celebrities, so it's a bit different, but still, like, you'll just see people like, oh, 2 years ago they were wrong. This is what you were saying. And even if they weren't
Mhm.
wrong, they just feel a different way now. They're like, what
Yeah.
happened? What changed? It's like, I don't know. A couple years went by and a lot of bad things happened. And when I can see like an organic process happening, that's when I know. I don't care what side you're on, but I don't see a lot of people that are just like, kind of like refusing to evacuate during the hurricane on the left, basically. Like those people that are just staying in their house. I'm like, I can't help you anymore, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, it's the thing is, we will help you. That's why, like, like, we are helping you. Like, that's the sad part is, but if you just view it as torture, then whatever. I don't know. I don't know what to
Mhm.
say.
I think it's 99% social costs, worried
Mm.
about losing your friends and stuff. I think it's I think that's also tied up into the vaccine mandate, this collectivist, we're all in this together kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys. I've moved around the country a few times, and I've had a few different friend groups, and then I realized that pretty quickly that, all these groups that you keep having I could never hit any of them up on the phone and ask for a favor, or like, hey, how's it going? Like, you know what I mean? It's so transient, and maybe a couple stick, so any kind of investment into making sure people like that like you, and it's nothing against anyone. It's just the way
Mhm.
the human
Yeah.
relationships work, I think.
Being liked is good. Being liked is fun.
Yeah, exactly. But after a while, it's like that's not gonna. You're just gonna end up chasing your own tail down a weird dark path, and yeah, I think that's kind of it is kind of like a snake eating its own tail, with where they're just so invested in being cool and being liked that they ended up doing the dumbest, most retarded shit ever. And but even not online without. I mean, honestly, I just feel more. I can't talk to like Kamala Harris voters and not the ones that like took it semi seriously. I mean, there's a few that just filled in a bubble or whatever, but I'm like, yeah, anyone kind of in this like center, and it's weird. Like, I don't know. It's just such a weird. I never thought I'd be here in my life, where it's just so hard to talk to liberals, just literally face to face, people in my family, people in,
Yeah.
or that you're just the weird one, even though you're right all the time, and that you keep getting proved right. I'm trying not to sound like egotistical with it, but it's, I mean, and I'm not saying we're 100% right about everything, but
No,
I mean, I'd say 5 years track record, pretty good,
pretty good.
and
Good.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. I just think they
Well,
need. It hurts me. I want them. I don't want them to
Mhm.
be this way. It hurts me. Like I want to be able to talk about this shit openly. And yeah, what were you gonna say, Alex?
Well, yeah, I also don't want to be mean, but it is kind of like they're in a cult.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a cult member and you're listening, I'm sorry for saying this about you, but it's I don't know. They have a lot of characteristics of a cult, like the way that high control groups operate.
You mean like taking all of your money and putting it into programs they swear are helping you? And
yeah.
yeah.
And like, like you invest money and you invest, like you do advocacy and then you get kickbacks. It's all just like run like a cult.
Mhm.
And you have to you have to do these weird brainwashing sessions where you confess your sins, like your white privilege and things like that. And anything you feel like, anytime you question the doctrine of the cult, it's just because of your own personal issues with your privilege or your prejudice, things like that. It's really similar to the way that high control groups will tell people often, you just need to work on yourself. If you're uncomfortable, that's kind of because you need to work this out psychologically. That's some like resistance that you have. And then as time goes on and the situation with the leaders becomes more and more crazy and abusive, people go along with it because they've been convinced that any sense of internal instinct they have that something is wrong is just a sign that they're not advanced or developed enough. And that's how the liberal mind is at this moment.
Dude, that's beautifully said. Well, moving on, we gotta talk RFK. I mean, it's he just got confirmed. I was getting scared for a second. I mean, like Marco Rubio just gets straight through. By the way, everyone votes for him, confirmed all the way. So all the people who are like worried about neocons or something like that, it's like, well, the Democrats voted Marco Rubio through with nothing, with no problem whatsoever. But like RFK, they were hung up on a little bit, and thank God that the Senate was, you know, constructed the way that it is, because it was, the hearings were insane. They were the
Zero
most
Democrats.
shrill, the most shrill screaming I've ever seen. There's a guy with the last name Kennedy that can't get one Democrat vote after, and not, he's not even like, oh, when he was like 20 and went to school and was like, I'm a Republican, sorry family. No, he was like, you know, doing substance abuse problems and all of these things, and then was environmentalist for a long time, which for a long time you had to be on the left or liberal or whatever. You had to, that was the only way you were going to do any sort of environmentalism large scale. And this is a guy who, when he signed up or was entered as, I guess, third party, a lot of people on the right who wanted Trump back in were scared, and they said, well, RFK is going to become, you know, kind of the Bernie Sanders of the right, or the you know, whoever. And I never feared that. I just said, I think his only avenue of success is to work with this administration. And I'm just so glad it all worked out in that way. And he's already, the stuff he's talking about already doing, I'm through the moon about. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I think, yeah, the hearings were wild. The Warren and Bernie stuff was pretty wild. I think it gets to the things that you guys were saying before, where they just, the Democrat attitude is like, yeah, maybe things are broken and maybe we're as unhealthy as we can possibly be, but you can't change that. You know, you can't do something to address that. Why would you do that? It's very entrenched, this idea that we need to keep the systems going. We need to keep the money flowing. You're going to keep everything as is, while you know that there's regulatory capture, while you know that the pharmaceutical companies have issues, and while you know that there's a major problem with things like obesity and other illnesses or conditions. They're just a party of the government bureaucracy and government power. And the only point is just increasing that power for them. And everything else is just kind of an excuse or emotional blackmail. But it's all just about feeding control and expanding bureaucracy. But solutions or trying anything can't happen, because if you were to come up with a solution, then what would the power of the bureaucracy be?
It's very true. Very true. And you know, I was just thinking about the people who oppose him, people that I know, especially in California. There are a lot of people who had very similar beliefs, not in the vaccine skeptical. They were not, these people weren't really skeptical of those ever, but they were skeptical of like food dyes and reading if you go to a Whole Foods in California, you will see 97% Democrats all reading the back of things of what's in the food. But they're like, I don't understand. I'm like, well, there's a guy that's trying to make you to where you kind of don't really have to do that a lot. I mean, you know, you still should. It is a literacy thing that I think is good for everybody to do. But like, they just don't put two and two together, because they think, well, no, but everyone's going to die of the Black Plague if he gets in. So it doesn't. It's just like, you guys don't get it. Like, do you really think a guy who would care that much about taking food dyes out of here, stuff that was very carcinogenic, stuff that perhaps causes chronic disease, do you think he would really just be like, yeah, and I want one big disease to kill everybody? Like, I really don't think that's the case. I don't know.
They legit lied about, like, the Samoa measles thing really pisses me off, because that is a complete.
And what is that for people who maybe don't know what that
is? There was a scandal with the nurses in Samoa improperly injecting measles vaccines into kids, and it killed some of the kids, and it triggered this mass rejection of vaccine uptake in Samoa. This is all like 2016 or something, I don't know. And then they claimed that, though their timeline, as they say, the president or the king or the governor or whoever of Samoa invited RFK out and got everyone against the measles vaccine, and then there was a huge measles outbreak, and then it killed a bunch of kids from measles. And then meanwhile, there's a guy on Twitter, Edwin Tominasi, who might be coming on the show soon, we don't know, who's literally going into hospitals where they've given up on kids, giving them vitamin C and vitamin A IVs and like clearing their measles 100% with no death rate, whatever. And then they put them in jail for doing that. And it's like, so anyway, so that none of the timeline, you know, is totally off. And RFK had nothing to do with that. They invited him like 2 years later and stuff. And so the fact that they're just willing to outright lie about this and claim that RFK is killing children, obviously kids shouldn't be dying of measles anyway. Even the most unvaccinated kid, it's like not a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just so crazy. And Elizabeth Warren freaking out about the profit margins of vaccine companies was such a just like, you have to, if you're a dirtbag leftist, you have to, that has to be like just some kind of brick wall to the face if you're semi-aware.
No, because they think they're going to nationalize. They think that everything's fine. It just needs to be nationalized. And that's just a complete misread of what's wrong with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their whole thing with RFK is that he's doing it to get money.
Dude, he's a Kennedy. Yeah. He's literally a Kennedy. He could just be a Kennedy and not do anything and get a bunch of money.
It's really a projection because it's it's they're protecting the profits of the pharmaceutical companies, and they're also protecting the PMC jobs programs that they want to run. They have a financial stake in keeping the status quo. So it's again this projection. They're constantly projecting. They're constantly accusing people of doing the exact things that they're doing, including lying and misinformation. And some of that is just because it's easy. Like, these are just easy things to accuse people of. But some of it is also, I think, because they're not comfortable, because there's like a discomfort with yourself, because on some level you have a feeling of unease about your actions.
Yeah. And one classic case I see of it is like, there were for many, and I'm not making a statement on this in one way or another in terms of, you know, body image or something, but the Ozempic thing is a real huge crazy thing that I'm seeing right now, where, you know, RFK is kind of looking at it and going like, Ozempic, like, I don't know if this is the way we should treat obesity, because when you do know how to treat obesity, it's really weird to like see a wonder drug come out on the market and just be like, no, we kind of know how. And when I understand there's, you know, we have really warped views of like personal image and stuff, and I do think the Twitter discourse of image and talking about people's looks is the lowest form of discussion. But that being said, you have this guy saying, or you have women that were saying, like, it's typically women that were like, body positivity, like at any size you can be beautiful. Those were the first people that ran to get Ozempic. And I was like, wait, so are we positive about that? Like, it was a weird thing. Like, do you actually believe that? Because obviously we know it's unhealthy to be, you know, obese. Like, it just is. You're at risk for way more diseases. And there's a guy that's trying to literally solve, like, treat, and I say this, treat the soil. I say that like treat the soil rather than just take a few weeds out and actually like get our country back on track. And all these people, these return images that you see people posting of like 50s, you know, beaches and stuff. It's like, will we ever look like that? I don't know. But there's a guy that's actually out there trying to combat childhood obesity that turns into adult obesity, you know. And it's just, it's like a cognitive dissonance, I think, is people that know it's a problem, but the idea is you want to like take an injection, and it's I don't know why they like injections so much, but it's always an injection. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the cognitive dissonance makes it, I think, gives people a desire to displace their own attitudes and misdeeds onto others, and to say that other people are doing what they're doing, because that's how you can resolve the cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, the projection of misinformation. Like, I actually think misinformation is a problem in this country. Like, I actually do. I don't want to throw people in jail for it. I just want to have people just not trust those people anymore, because what they're saying is wrong. There's people accusing our side of murdering people all the time, and like all these kids, like the perfect example of it is there was like a funding to some hospital in Thailand or something, and the funding gets cut off through USAID or something, and then they're like, oh, a woman's oxygen cut off and just died. And I'm like, so you guys just turned off her oxygen? Like, you just like, we you know, I don't know what the medical oaths are in Thailand. I don't know if they have the Hippocratic oath the way we do here, nor do I even value ours too much, to be honest. But I don't think the idea was like, oh, that's blood on Elon's hands or Doge or 6 engineers that were unelected, as they like to say, taking that away. That's blood on their hands, not the people who turned off the oxygen in the hospital. Like it's just what? Like what? Like I know people smart that I think are smarter than this that are saying stuff.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, the issue is it really that if the American taxpayers aren't paying, that this 70-year-old woman has to die
Yeah.
in Thailand?
Propped
It's just
up, yeah, propped up by our tax dollars. Like that woman.
it's like there
is
is there no other, like there's no way to keep her alive if it's not through our tax dollars. I mean, I don't know about that, guys. It's also like really there's just no other level of responsibility except my personal responsibility. That's an interesting idea, and it's also seems like a very convenient another very convenient form of emotional blackmail and weaponizing empathy. And the problem is that they overplayed that hand. And they did just over and over and over again. If you don't care about this, you're a bad person. If you don't care about this, you're a bad person. Oh, why don't you want to keep the schools closed? Why do you want to open the schools during COVID? Because you want? Is that because you don't care about killing grandma? Why don't you have empathy for grandma? Why don't you have empathy for this? Why don't you have empathy for that? Whereas really the things that we're discussing are always trade-offs. And we have to be engaged in a discussion of costs and benefits and political reality. And the trick that the Democrats and the left, not all the left, but some of the left, is always pulling with that stuff. Like the aid issue is like, if you don't let us control the international media with hundreds of millions of dollars and do influence operations abroad and bring those influence operations back home, a 7-year-old woman in Thailand is going to die and you'll be a bad person.
Yeah. And meanwhile, that same person, oftentimes, not always, will have the idea. It's like, do we really need to be a global superpower? Like we're always just doing imperialist stuff in everyone's country. Like, yeah, what do you think is the root of all of that? Is just these fake money that we dump everywhere. That's literally like that's the cognitive dissonance. Like there are some people, no, don't get me wrong, there are some liberals that are like, no, I love being a global superpower and I love spending money around the world and keeping Thai people alive so I can just be happy in my house that a Thai woman's alive,
and a lot of and the left, like the anti-imperialist, anti-war left, has done a lot of the legwork in terms of documenting the things that USAID has done all over the world. So that is thanks to that part of the left, which is often at odds with the Democratic Party.
Yes, when all is going well. Yes,
yeah.
When all is going well. Sometimes you see them get hung up sometimes, and you're like, come on, like just. Guys, stop doing this. Like I know you don't. There's no secret third thing right now. I hate to say to people, there's no secret third thing right now. I just don't see it. Point to me where it is. They always attack you for not being part of it, but you're like, well, what is it? What is this like third coalition that rejects masks and vaccines and all of these things, but is also still what they want it to be in terms of like leftist, like anti-imperialists and stuff? It's like, no, there's no coalition. I think that's a lot of times where a lot of frustration is on the left, is that there actually isn't that large number of people that are there, and they start attacking people that they know left from that left or whatever. And it's like, sorry guys, like it was just greener pastures. And I just getting back to like RFK about it, it's like, there's also other people that are like, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to like, blow up Pfizer or something like that? Or like, rig it up like the Joker or something? Like, no, like he's a lawyer. It's going to be a slow legal process in the same way that these things were codified into law. It was just constant, like, constant, documents and courtroom stuff and all that. And that's like what he's going to do. And RFK is smart enough to know this, because again, this is a guy, Children's Health Defense, which, Sai, you said it too. The site's still really good, by the way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you go on. It's like, it's not like since he left, it's like bad. It's like still really good. Or since he stopped
you could search the search bar. I mean, I was just searching measles the other day just for some, and dude, it's like seriously, it's like 20 pages of search results.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, it's good shit in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have his measles book. Like, it's a really short, like really
Hmm.
like to the point book about like
Yeah.
measles and how to treat it and what it actually is versus what you're told is the case. But to me, it's just going to be the minute these things are only here because they have legal protection. Like the vaccines, if you left it up to people, right? The mandates and the liability act, those are the two things that make people worship vaccination, right? I mean, because once you roll those out and only 45% of people, or let's say it's still 70 or something, let's say it's still high, are following the childhood vaccination schedule, you're going to start seeing if there's still 30% of the country that doesn't have to abide by that, most people are going to go, man, maybe this is horseshit because these kids aren't just dying. And we know that's not going to be the case. And I know RFK knows that, and all you got to do is attack the 1986 Act. I don't know if that can. I don't know. I haven't looked at whether that can be kind of just thrown away, essentially. But the 1986 Liability Act or Immunity Act, I don't know if that can be the case, but I know that's what he's going to go after, and it's very smart. And it's just not going to be this like big theatrical like explosion, boom, anti-vax world. It's just going to be this slowly getting in the same way that Doge is getting rid of a lot of USAID stuff. I think RFK and Jay Bhattacharya and these people are going to attack those things that have really not been around as long as people say they have been. They think this has been that way for 100 years. It's actually been the millennial lifetime is basically what they've been around for.
My whole thing with the vaccines is, okay, let's just say you're correct. You're not, but let's just say you're correct about measles, polio, whooping cough, all those basic, that it is some crazy, blight upon humanity. And it's, if we don't have that, kids will die. What about all the other 86 shots? Like what about right? It's like, do we need all those too? Is there no level that you're gonna cap? It's like, okay, let's have a compromise. Let's just only mandate the really super important ones that you think are important, and let's forget about HPV and all the other dumb shit. You know what I mean? Just play devil's advocate here. Yeah, and the Elizabeth Warren thing was funny because she was arguing as if the thing that they want already doesn't exist, which is 100% legal liability shield for vaccine manufacturers. That already exists, and it was codified into law by Ronald Reagan. So it's like, what do you, it's like, what's even happening here? It's insane. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do
you guys think that there's a possibility that we could go back to like a smaller schedule, kind of compromise, like the one from 40 years ago?
I think they're gonna, if they're smart,
what they have in Denmark, kind of thing.
If they were smart, they would. But I think they're overplaying their hand, and it's just gonna crumble at some point to zero.
Like it'll create more backlash because
and also RFK could just drop it. He'll be like, "Hey, we found this in the archives. All these studies are fake," and then it'll be like, "Oh shit!" People will really wake up.
That's all he has to do. Like people just talk about it like it's this. That's why so much of it is there's whenever you're talking with like people who view the world from a conspiratorial angle or something, and I'm again very sympathetic to that, and I fall in that a lot of times. But there's a lot of people who go, "Oh, you think just because your guy gets in there, he can take down the system?" I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, kind of. I do think that like this particular guy, if it was just some guy that popped up on the internet like 3 years ago that was running for HHS, I don't know that I would. I think I'd be a lot more skeptical. But this is a guy who's, for the last 20 years or so, I'll say maybe even 30, has really been consistent on that front and is really knowledgeable on it and knows the legal system really well. And I think he's just gonna go to war with all these people. And they keep asking him, "Are you gonna make money off this? Are you gonna make money?" It's like, you guys don't ask any other person this, by the way. I don't care if he makes money. I don't care at all if he makes money. Like it's the only reason these things are here, and I keep saying this, but like the only reason these things are here is because they are basically immune to all liability and are forced for any sort of public education, and so people just comply. All right, and people just comply, and then we have kids going around with autism, right? Just like a lot, very high autism rates. And I saw even Trump brought it back up again. He's like, I'd like to know what's causing this. He's not making a statement on anything, but he's like, I'm going to let Bobby figure it out. And people are freaking out about that, like freaking out about like autism. Like, and sadly, there's a lot of people that just think autism is like a blessing. And
they do not want to fix. They don't want to fix it. They literally don't want to fix it.
Really bad.
It's
why?
because it's the because their
Like the
worldview.
telepathy stuff, or
No, I
No,
wish it was
no.
that cool.
No,
Yeah,
exactly. No,
I
it's-
wish that was the case.
No, exactly. No, it's and I kind of have a nuanced like hippie perspective on this
Yeah.
as well. Maybe I'll get to that, but I'll answer first. Because they think that this, first of all, they think it's always been here and that it's always just been covered up, and that
Yeah.
kids are like they have all these like therapy terms now that are kind of it's all been therapized, you know, where
Mhm.
and it's all top down from above, where they've kind of I've 100% believe in that conspiracy that they've all got their marching orders, because I've seen it happen to like with GMOs or with pesticides or with vaccines or any of that. But they think that this has always been the way it's been, and that these kids are special, and that, you know, that freaking out about like a mom that does mercury detox on her kid's brain is like, she just doesn't accept her kid as for who he is, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I kind of, my nuance, I kind of think, if we're going to get like real hippie with this, I do think there is something about a kid that comes in as a soul into a kid's body and experiences autism as like a form of soul growth, and maybe does have something to offer the world that wouldn't have otherwise happened, you know, it like just, you know, so that maybe there is, you know, there's always a deeper meaning to everything on some level that we're unaware of. That being said, we should remove mercury and aluminum from children's brains. Like,
we'll see
full
if that
stop.
still
You know,
takes place.
yeah,
We'll see. We'll
exactly.
see how. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
then
dude.
only because again,
Yeah.
it's not a blessing when your kid goes in for its shots and then comes out and like the next day is like, my kid doesn't have
No,
like.
and that's the thing. The moms, and this is the most evil thing. I think they've hijacked moms' legit, authentic, biologically driven and spiritually driven empathy into these convoluted, twisted kind of things, to where none of them really believe that. I'm not saying that they don't love their kids. Of course they do, but it's like, it's this thing where they legit are sad that their kid can't say "I love you" to their mom, right? Or say like, or know their mom's name, or say
Or
their
might
mom's
not
name, or
experience
something.
like a romance or something. You know what I mean? Like, there's some big
Love
things.
on the
really
Spectrum,
hard.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix. Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
so
really
it's just, I don't
hard.
know. It is, yeah. So it's, and also the I think Toby. Let me find his name, but I'll find it in a second. But he has a great Substack, and he I think he has a PhD in autism research, and he has this great article on his thing that, like, when this was first happening, the California invested a bunch of money into studying this, and this is like liberal California scientists too. This is not some Maha thing or whatever. And they found without a doubt that it absolutely is increasing, and at most you could describe better diagnoses with maybe like 25-30% of it. The rest of it's environmental cause. So that's like the best scientists we have, and they're all voting Biden Harris too, or whatever, for what it's worth, right? They disagree with the Bill Gates psyop that it's always been here or whatever. So
Yeah, didn't Bill Gates just come out and say that, like, he's like, oh, I have autism?
Yeah.
It's like, what, dude? Like, just,
you might be like, you might grow up to be like me one day if you're autistic. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey,
you
guys,
might...
I mean, I attribute it to, you know, again, I don't know. I just, these things are I agree with you, because I've heard the same thing from like certain moms where they're kind of like viewing it as like a badge of honor, one for like their kid being legitimately special. I'm not even using that as like a pejorative, but I just mean like their kid is special, and also they're a special mom.
Yes. Well, that's, and that telepathy thing. I'm like, yo, can we get some like DraftKings going here? Some like parlays?
No, I mean,
let's go.
You're trying to get remote viewers for your
project.
Exactly.
It's like,
no,
leave it a little bit of mercury, like
such
a little bit of mercury in. Let's leave a little bit. You know, just we'll see what.
The right amount. Yeah. No, I'm looking. I mean, you know, to talk about this again, I'm looking forward to this, right? Like, I'm looking forward to seeing where we go. I kind of have this like, what, I don't know people say what's going to happen. I think I know the route he's going to take, but I don't know the impact it's going to have on this schedule. I don't know what it's going to have in terms of, and it's not even just about vaccines too. It's about like just diet and stuff. And like, people are freak out about the SNAP, right? Like the SNAP, the taking junk food off of like SNAP. It's like, you guys were telling us we wanted treats during COVID, and now it's quite literally treats are being taken away, quite
Well,
literally.
it's different. It's different people.
Yeah.
Different people's treats. You know, some people are like bad people. The bad privileged people
Yeah,
don't get
sure.
treated. You shouldn't want your treats. But if you're, you know, historically oppressed victim, then you must be given the treats to the point of dying. You must be given the treats.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And like I will say, there are MAGA voters I know that are probably going to be affected by that. It's not like not just rich people that voted for Trump. Like it's there are like poor people in those flyover states. Again, like I think they get too much hate, but there are people that are just like, damn, dude, like I kind of did want that. Like I don't know about this Kennedy guy. Like he might get a little pushback from that from part of Trump's base. I mean, the guy won the popular vote. I know they say he didn't, but he won the popular vote, meaning it's not all rich people voting for him.
Yeah.
And it's just, but it's again, it's actually doing the things that like 25 years ago used to be ways to sell products in health food stores. Like just these things like this doesn't have this, doesn't have that, doesn't have this, and we'll help you with this. And he's just like, what if we subsidize that? What if we gave small farmers a chance to compete with the big agriculture? And you know, people love to use that as like, oh, I thought you guys loved the free market. I kind of don't love the free market that much, so it's not really I don't. Yeah, I like ethics, you know, more. I think there's
and agriculture is already the most. It's not a free market. It's completely subsidized. It's worse than like Wall Street. You know, it's completely subsidized to just grow biofuels and corn syrup and like defatted animal feed or whatever. So it's like the Bobby Kennedy off ramp thing where he's like, all right, we can get you in 3 years to get, you know, the organic certifications and we'll subsidize it. That's sick, dude. That's like, yeah. And you look at you go into Whole Foods, half that shit wouldn't exist in the stores without a Bobby Kennedy for the last 30 years. That's what people don't get. You know, it's not like he's some new guy. You know, he cleaned up the Hudson River for fuck's sake. It's insane. Yeah, I don't know. That is my one thing. If people if like libs in real life will talk to me about Trump, I'll still kind of be like, I don't want to start anything. I'll be like, yeah, whatever. You know, I don't really care, or like I'm not, you know. But the second they bring up Bobby Kennedy, I'm like, no, he's great. Yeah. And I'm just, that's my hard line where I'm just, I will defend that.
Soprano, in this house, Bobby Kennedy is a saint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm really excited. So
yeah.
Alex, what are you doing in terms of you're working with Michael Schellenberger still, right?
Yeah.
How's that been going? I it's weird. I don't see you on X much, and you don't post much on there anymore. I thought you were like banned still, kind of, because I used to never see your stuff in the wild. I had to search you. It still doesn't really pop up, but you post.
I've just been posting on Substack. Yeah.
And what is the Substack for anybody who's asking?
It's public.substack.com, or you can go to me on Substack would be substack.com/@Alex Gutentag.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you guys have been covering a lot of the USAID stuff, but you know, I just remember, you know, you were kind of freelancing for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a home now?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I guess you could say that. Yeah.
And you know, because I remember, you know, like I said, I think it was The Bellows was the first piece I ever read from yours a long time ago. And it's always tough because there always seems to be a publication that it's like, hey, we're all getting together, these disaffected people. And then it kind of tanks, you know, and for whatever reason, because a lot of times a common enemy isn't usually something, it can only unify people like somewhat, right? Like just for a temporary amount of time. And then people start going, hey, but I thought we believed this. Hey, but I thought we believed that. And
especially on the left, right?
Especially on the left.
Yeah.
You see it a little bit with like dissident, like just the kind of disaffected leftist people where they think, oh, I thought this party 1000% agreed with me. This thing that I moved to, that I used to oppose, and this thing that I moved to. But now, like where you're at right now, there's people that would call it right wing. I don't know that I would. I think it's kind of like right in the middle, you know what I mean? Like where you're at right now. And I think that's a good thing, right? To kind of just to do that. So I don't know if you can expand on that or anything.
I guess I just don't really think about it anymore, whether it's right wing or left wing. I'm totally fine if people think I'm right wing or conservative. I just don't really care. I mean, I try to give the left credit. like where I feel like it's due, like the anti-imperialist left. And I definitely still think I use certain like frameworks to understand things that come from the left. But I would say that I've also definitely been on a journey, a personal journey over the last 5 years where I have realized that there were certain things that conservatives were right about that I didn't think about at all. And then I didn't want to acknowledge for a really long time. And I'm more in a place now where I feel like I can recognize those things and it doesn't bother me to be associated with them. Like I don't feel like dirty if like I don't feel upset about it. I mean, if I've kind of accepted that people think I'm right wing, and I don't enjoy if like people I know try to like provoke me into like a debate that I don't, in person or something. But I don't care that they think that about me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of just something I've let go of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think your past experience, because you were a teacher in the East Bay, which is East Bay.
Shout out.
Do you think, I just know a lot of people that like shout out. They have, maybe they're PMCs or they're teachers in more like utopian little pockets and stuff, and they're just like, oh, how could anyone be against this and that? And you kind of saw the horrors of the worst of like all these policies. Do you think that kind of spurred you in that direction a little more, just from being thrown into the fire in that regard?
Yeah, I think
or I don't know, maybe not, I just
no, I mean, yeah, it all comes from that. I mean, it doesn't come from the whole thing in general, because a lot of it I was just like completely blind to, or I was a supporter of bad things. Like I wasn't good on a lot of stuff, and I would be like one of those people who would be pushing other people to the left, to be honest.
Right.
Especially on union stuff. Like I would,
Sure.
I definitely like push people to support the teachers union. I really regret my actions there. And I also, with friends and like in social situations, I would be, like typical millennial of my background, where you'd be, doing like left-wing one-upmanship. Sorry, this is like a confession. I would definitely participate in that and encourage people to go in what I now think is a completely wrong direction in their thinking. But it was what happened with the school closures that led me down this path. And I'm being kind of honest about this because I think it's important. Like, it's important to not act like I've had all the answers all along and I knew what was going on all along, because that's definitely not the case. And I think people holding on to this idea about not wanting to be wrong or not wanting to change their mind is really destructive. So it was what happened with the school closures. I mean, my loyalty at the time was to my students, and I felt like they were being hurt in a way that I wasn't comfortable with. And I think it was, I interviewed Jay Bhattacharya, I don't know, maybe like a year and a half ago or something. I'd spoken to him before, but I was doing this like, little interview with him for Substack. And he said something like, at one point, he just decided that he was going to speak out about what was happening during COVID. And it was like declaring war on everyone in his life.
Well, he's a Stanford guy, right?
Yeah, he's at Stanford. And that really resonated with me. Like, I kind of feel like I kind of just declared war on everyone around me, personally and professionally. And so number one, I can't really expect people to like me that much after that. Like, that's kind of, I get it. Kind of let that go a long time ago, whether it's colleagues, friends, family. That was my decision, but I did it because, like, similar to what Jay said, he said basically it was like an issue of whether he could live with himself or not. And that was how I felt as well. Like I had basically zero understanding about what was going on with COVID, what was going on with the left, what was going on with the schools, what was going on with the unions, what was like my understanding of the world was still super limited, and I was working off of really basic kind of assumptions, trying to piece together how this could be happening. But just deep down, I knew it was wrong, because I knew that the kids were being mistreated, and basically their lives were being ruined. And a lot of really horrible things happened to them. A lot of things that never ever should have happened to kids I knew. And that was just this like catastrophe in my life that completely inverted everything. It completely set me on a path to totally change my perceptions, totally change my analysis of the world around me, and completely open my mind. Because I think when you're in this left-wing space, Democrat-aligned left-wing space, your framework is super narrow and super constricted, because you're basically in a cult and you're a party member and you're in a cult, whether you're voting for Hillary Clinton or you're voting for Sanders, or you're just supporting their ideas, not voting for them. You're in a cult, and once you leave the cult or you're excommunicated from the cult, everything kind of changes, and you can recognize people who are also not party members or not in the cult. Like what you guys were saying, there's, crunchy hippie people who might think, no, I am a liberal, I am a Democrat, I am on the left, but really they're not, because maybe they vote that way, but the cult doesn't accept them, and the cult
you have some work on yourself to do if you want to still do that. Like if you want to still do that, you have to give up your core beliefs.
So it was definitely that. And I think it's also, I think, reductive at this point, the left or right thing. I know I call it the left and I call it the right, but it's a little bit, I think it's maybe confuses matters to keep using those terms, because we've gotten really far from what we understood the left to be or what we understood the right to be. Like, why is the Trump administration so many former Democrats, like Tulsi, RFK? Why is it that the right is the group that's now really putting forward this question of what is U.S. empire? How big is it? What does it do? Why is it evil? And should we have it? Well, that wouldn't be a question I would think would be put forward by the right on this mass scale. I would have expected that to have been popularized by the left.
And I think the cynic, right, the person who's still that will listen to what you said, well, they all left the right because they're being paid by billionaires to do so. And it's just kind of this like, come on,
it's just not serious.
Come on.
Yeah, and that's why it's like it's really hard to engage with people. I feel like people in real life, they'll want to engage with me. I just feel like I just can't. It's like, it's everything you say is just going to fall on deaf ears, unless you have like a really specific thing that might get to one person effectively. Like maybe some of the RFK stuff on the food or that kind of thing, and plant seeds of doubt. Unless you're really deliberately planting seeds of doubt, a lot of it is ineffective. But I think that what makes this moment so historic is that we're probably still kind of at the beginning of a preference cascade, and people are sensing where the power is going. And like what you guys were saying, the Democrats aren't cool anymore and things like that. I think people are, especially probably young people, are going to start gravitating towards where they think the power is and where they think the cool is. And that might continue unless the administration like really, really messes up.
And I do want the Overton window to move back a little bit. Like I would like for like liberals to, I don't know, make good art again at least, or something, like just something
that would be nice, because I don't think the conservatives can do that.
It's not, not there's like a couple, but it's like I want there to be like crazy people like Stephen King to like write good novels, but like a younger version of it who might still have the politics that I disagree with, but where I'm like, I want these people to put good stuff out in the world again, because right now they're just mad about everything, and it's just kind of leading to nothing. It's just kind of like screaming into the void. And I'm kind of like, no, I want the Overton window to move to where like everybody kind of agrees that we have problems with our food and pharmaceuticals, and maybe we argue over which way the best way to do it or something. But I as of now, I see no path. But we'll see. They're more than welcome to do that. And what you said earlier about the politics, about not declaring yourself left or right, just saying it outright, I agree. Because, you know, I could go up here and say I'm a Republican. Me, Glenn, I'm a Republican. I'm this and that. And if I say one thing wrong, there's somebody who's gonna like out Republican me and say, no, you're a lib, dude. Get out of here. And but on the same thing, if I just even say I like Theo Vaughn or something, like we said earlier, there's somebody that says, well, he's right wing. So it's kind of just up to everybody else to crunch those numbers and then put with their rubric and their scale and just put that label on you. And you can't be scared of the label. I'm fine to be called anything. I just want to unironically, I believe there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I want to be on the right side of history. That's what our enemies think that they're doing. And they think they've cornered the market on those words, but I actually believe in those terms, you know, like that those are around, and that's the only way to do it. And you went to the place where there's more freedom for you to do that, to find right. There's certain outcomes. And I'll say this on the left, there's just certain outcomes you can't get to over there. There's just certain, it feels like a lot of our pharmaceutical studies, right? There's just certain conclusions you cannot come to over there with the information.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're not allowed to play with any ideas over there, which is also why I don't have a lot of, I'm worried for them of how they're going to dig themselves out of this, because you can't like experiment. You can't be wrong. Like you can't try things. It's just super, super suffocating.
Yeah.
And they have no, the thing with Trump and everything is, whatever you feel about Trump, is that he just had, with the assassination attempt, I think that just really gave him this like incredible story, like just incredible hero's journey, character arc. And the journey that then the people coming along with him it has this narrative power that the Democrats and the left are having trouble competing with, because they seem kind of petty against this sort of epic quality that the quote unquote right has right now, where you have this like sense of there's the leader Trump, who's kind of on a path with destiny, where the bullet like almost enters his head, and he just turns at the right time, and he goes from being this very kind of self-interested, vulgar figure to someone that a lot of people feel like represents them, and has a mandate to like completely, you know, transform the country for the better, versus when he was first elected and didn't seem like that was what he expected or necessarily wanted. And the left story, or the Democrat story, is like completely lacking in that. It's just like, we're just going to make stuff up about RFK wanting to make money.
Brain worms.
He has
a worm in his brain.
Worms. They just seem petty and kind of low. And the narrative that's being offered by the Trump MAGA side of things to Americans who I think really like a sense of narrative, is much more kind of like Shakespearean and anti-hero and very compelling, versus this, I don't know, just petty nonsense from the Democrats.
That's so true. I mean, that's brilliantly said. Well, Alex, I mean, thank you. It's been forever, but like I said, I feel like we're just able to talk about things in such a more positive manner. When
Yeah.
you used to come on, we were all scared of everything, and rightfully so, rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
And I know, because like if you go back, I'm sure if you go back and listen to it, you guys will be like, damn, you guys were crazy. But it's like we weren't, and I think that attitude.
Remember monkeypox?
Yeah, that was probably my biggest L. I thought it was gonna go crazy. I was like, no, I just thought
Well,
it was
it's important to be vigilant.
Yeah, I thought no, I
Yeah.
just thought it was going to be a way to like get the right to believe in like a virus like other than COVID. You know, like I was like, oh, because there's going to be an ideology attached to how you get it, and then it's going to be like, you know, they're going to trust like a czar to go in, and you know, and there's going to be vaccines, which there were, but thank God that didn't happen.
No, they're always trying stuff. You always have to keep your eyes open.
Yeah, and RFK, one thing he really has to like actually end is like gain of function. Like he just has to end it, because you know there's going to be something that comes out of that lab to like really false flag everybody if that stuff is allowed to go. And I even saw like Doge was trying to look. Then what was that thing about the NIH getting paid twice or something? Like it was some weird thing. Like there was like some clerical error in their favor or something, and like. You gotta get that stuff out of here, because that's I think his biggest opposition. Also, I hate to speak it in existence, but he is a Kennedy. I'm always scared of that too. So always scared of that. So that's ugh. So but yeah, Alex, say your Substack one more time just so people know where to go.
Well, you can go to public.substack.com, or you can go to like my Substack profile. Substack's kind of weird, but it's substack.com/ at Alex Gutentag.
Yeah, they need to fix that app. Oh my gosh, it is the worst. Yeah, they need to fix that app.
And then on X, it's still Galaxy Brain.
Galaxy Brain, old school. And you guys can listen to our old episodes. She's Alex G on the old episodes. It is not the recording artist. I don't believe is based like Alex is. It's not.
I wish, but yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so. A lot of people were like, damn, that guy's sick, man. I was like, no, that's actually a teacher. That's actually a teacher in the East Bay. But yeah. Well,
I wonder if I really caused him like reputational damage. Probably not.
I mean, because that was right. Like you never know, and it's
you
just
never
like
know.
We were trying
Maybe
to
like one guy thinks Alex G, the musician, is an anti-vaxxer or something. Is like convinced.
Yeah, I supported his fame of being a teacher in the East Bay and into an indie recording artist, but once he started talking about vaccines, I just don't. I lost him. So guys. Well, Alex, we won't wait another 2 years. We'll have to talk to you a lot sooner.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. And on that note, guys, everybody have a safe week. We'll catch you guys next time.